Welcome back to Soft Touch Britain. We are facing a crisis of criminality in this country, and the Labour government's latest plan will only make it worse. I don't know about you, but I think our country is in visible decline. Criminality is being mainstreamed and the system is simply no longer fit for purpose. Just look at the data. Shoplifting offences in England and Wales are now at their highest level ever recorded. More than 500,000 offences last year alone. Theft from the person was up 50% to nearly 500,000. And knife crime, well, there were 54,000 knife crime offences recorded by police last year alone. And what is actually happening to these criminals, you might ask? Well, recently, astonishingly, it was revealed that 90% of recorded offences in this country remain unsolved. 90%. While more than 200,000 burglaries, 3 in every 4 in England and Wales last year, went unresolved. No wonder millions of people out there in the law-abiding, hard-working majority feel that there is now a culture of impunity surrounding crime and criminals in this country. Now, you might think that Keir Starmer and the Labour government would make tackling crime its priority. But what are they really doing? They're opening our prisons, they're going soft on crime, they're going soft on the people who are ruining our communities. Last year, thousands of prisoners were released early to tackle overcrowding. Those serving more than 5 years were automatically released after serving only 40% of their fixed-term sentence. Only 40%. But it doesn't end there. Following the Labour government's review of prisons, criminals will be released early again. So in a time in which many crimes are now on the rise, think about violent crime, shoplifting, sexual assaults, the Labour government's plan is to release shoplifters, muggers, and even violent criminals. It is completely bonkers.
It happened live on television, and the reaction is still being felt around Westminster. Matt Goodwin, a political commentator known for speaking bluntly, delivered a fierce critique of Keir Starmer's Labour government during what began as a routine discussion about crime statistics. What started calmly quickly turned into a sharp challenge to Labour's claims on law and order. Picture the scene. Goodwin, pointing to official figures, argued that while the Prime Minister talks about safety and security, many communities feel less protected than they were promised. He repeated the phrase "soft touch Britain" to describe what he sees as weak enforcement and low accountability. He highlighted figures showing high percentages of crimes going unsolved, including burglaries and shoplifting, and raised concerns about knife crime levels in major cities. He also criticised early prisoner release policies, suggesting they send the wrong signal at a time when public confidence is already fragile. Supporters of the government argue those measures were necessary due to prison overcrowding and resource pressures. Critics like Goodwin say they reflect deeper failures. The statistics he cited were striking. A large share of reported burglaries not resulting in charges. Shoplifting incidents rising in certain areas. Police numbers and retention challenges putting pressure on forces across the country. Labour ministers say they are working to recruit more officers and reform the system. Goodwin countered that the reality on the ground tells a different story. Then came another controversial point. Goodwin suggested that the government appears more focused on regulating online platforms and tackling harmful content than on dealing with everyday crime. Government supporters would argue that online safety and public safety are connected issues. Critics argue priorities are misplaced. Before we go further into what was said and why it has sparked such strong reactions, do us a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing, and it costs nothing. It takes just 2 seconds and helps us keep bringing you this content here at British Eyes. Did you click it? Brilliant. You are a legend. Now, back to the moment that has Westminster talking.
And now today, 6 police chiefs have joined together to warn that there is a £1.3 billion funding gap nationally over the next 2 years, meaning there's little chance of the Labour government ever reaching its crime targets. And just when you might have thought it couldn't get any worse, we now see a review issued today calling for the decriminalisation of, you guessed it, cannabis, with London Mayor Sadiq Khan backing the proposal. I don't know about you, but I don't want our cities smelling of drugs. I don't want drugs being decriminalised in this way. Part of the reason for the call is, of course, the worry that stop and search powers disproportionately hit black communities. There's no war on drugs anymore. The drug dealers and criminals have won. The key point is this: the Southport protests and riots prove that if there is political will to stamp out crime, then it can be done. The police crack down on those protesters. Indeed, they crack down on the likes of Lucy Connolly for merely saying things on social media in the privacy of their own homes. The courts, in that case, fast-tracked the rioters through the judicial system and they got them into prison. It was ruthless, but it was effective. So why can't we see the same efficiency with actual day-to-day crime? Why do we all have to live with this managed decline, with a country in which things like shoplifting, knife crime and violence are now just going mainstream, seemingly above the law? Why is it that this Labour government is not only soft on borders, is not only soft on two-tier policing, is not only soft on immigration, but is now soft on crime? As ever, let me know your views at gbnews.com/your say, and you can reach us on X at GB News. With me now is former Policing Minister Tom Pursglove, as well as my panel, former Reform UK spokesman Gawain Towler and Labour Party activist Chris Worrell. Tom, many people out there looking at the polling, got YouGov polling, 60% saying they do not want these criminals to be released from prison and being given community sentences. They want law and order to be maintained. What on earth is going on? Why is a Labour government not listening to the vast majority of people in this country?
Well, it really worries me, and I think that there is a crisis of confidence brewing in policing. And this is an extraordinary intervention by senior policing leaders. You don't routinely see 5 chief constables of specific forces, plus the chief constable of the National Police Chiefs Council, coming out in this way, saying that something has to change. That is not something that you see every day. And I think we should be sitting up and listening to the warnings that they are giving in their remarks. And I think when you consider the two-tier justice concerns that people have got around the country, that is really straining at our institutions, it's straining public confidence with the police. But I also think that people would say that they want policing to be focused on frontline priorities, not, for example, spending time babysitting offenders who should be in prison. So government does need to take this seriously. They do need to put the resource in behind this. I think they need to lean a lot more into technology, which can help in this space as well, to make sure that people are brought to justice and that justice is seen to be done, but is also delivered in practice.
Tom, just explain this to me, though. There are lots of people out there who will say, how are we in this position where we have no capacity in prisons? Lots of Labour people would say, and we'll hear the Labour perspective in a minute, that actually it was 14 years of Conservative government, didn't plan, didn't expand the prisons. We're now in this situation where we are effectively letting criminals out in order to create space in prisons. I mean, let's just be frank, let's be honest with one another. What went wrong over the last 14 years?
So I think there's 2 really important elements of context in this. I think the population growth, which we spend a lot of time on this programme talking about, quite rightly, has played into this. But also, in recent years, what we have seen is more and more people criminalised for different things, and often sentencing people to longer terms in prison, for example, around violent crime. Those were the right things to do. There has broadly been political consensus to do that. But undoubtedly, it's placed strain on the criminal justice system. Now, we built new prisons, HMP 5 Wells, for example, Foss Way, other prisons as well that have recently come on stream. But there needs to be more places. And I think the choice that's being made here is not the right one. And government needs to think about this really carefully.
Labour activist Chris Worrell, Labour's completely adrift from the British public on this, aren't they?
I think we've all got to realise here is that if you've got police, calling out for sort of, crime, the police are fighting crime statistics here, like asking for more money. If they lobbied for cash as well as they would actually get on with the job, we wouldn't have to be worrying about this. We can talk about the prison places. I think there's only 400 built in the last sort of 10 to 14 years. They're putting 4.9 billion into new prison places. And I think it could go further. We talked about, they had the return sub in Kosovo. Those things could be expanded. Denmark have done deals with Kosovo, and Holland's done with other countries, where you could be getting prison places at a lot lower cost. I think it's one of the highest in Europe. In the UK, 62
Are we talking about the foreign criminals? Because we have
we can expand it, I believe.
We have about 10,000 foreign criminals in UK prisons.
Yeah.
So, again, why are these people even in the country?
Well, this is part of what I think return hubs will be able to offer you. If you've got Kosovo doing 300 prison spaces, for Denmark, it cost £210 million over 10 years. So it's about £7,000 or euros a person. These are the kind of solutions that should have been thought about, because their problem, Belgium had the same thing back in 2018 to 2020 when they ran out of prison spaces. They'd done another deal with another country. So I think there is merit in exploring some of these sort of outsourcing prison spaces or leasing them from other countries who...
British politics like this one. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the British I Believe It, or not. Over 98% of viewers watch our content without hitting the follow button. Subscribing is completely free.
Who have the means to do it.
Gwen Towler, Reform UK spokesperson. I mean, this has got to be good for Nigel Farage and Reform, right? I mean, Labour looks soft on crime, and most people out there, 60%, saying, I don't want prison sentences being replaced by community sentences.
It may be good for Reform and Farage, but it's appalling for the country.
Absolutely.
I don't actually care if it's good for Reform. That's neither here nor there. It's appalling for the country. Fact is, and as you were saying, prison places were not built in the amount they were needed, but there's a large industry saying prisoners aren't bad. Well, if you put somebody in prison, they can't be doing another crime. It is as simple as that. And prisoners do work. And we have got into a crisis of confidence, I think, amongst the great and the good, who feel that prisons are there purely to train better citizens. Well, actually, some people are bad. Some people actually are bad. The recidivism isn't just because they've been taught by worse criminals in prison. The recidivism is because that's who they are. And there has to be an understanding of this. And this idea of exporting prisoners, I thought we stopped transportation in about 1860. I mean, what are we going to send them to? Van Diemen's Land? We're going to send them to Norfolk Island, the Falklands,
Balkans. You know, give them the sunshine and the Balkans. If you've done the time,
send them to South Georgia. If we're going to do that.
So hang on one second. Tom Perscott, one thing I'm struggling with here is you look at what Labour is proposing. Yeah. Basically, anybody that is getting less than a 12-month sentence is essentially being let back into the community. Police chiefs themselves today are saying, basically, reading between the lines, this is bonkers. You know, you could be actually jeopardising national security. But this is an extreme position for a modernised, civilised country to be in.
I think there's three things you can do to try and tackle this. I think, as you rightly alighted on, being big and bold on getting rid of foreign national offenders.
Let's do that.
I think victims need to be at the heart of that, and they do need to be confident.
British people need to be at the heart of this.
You know, but victims need to be confident that those who are punished for crimes are serving time for those crimes, and that people aren't just being relocated to another country to be off scot-free. That's not acceptable. So they need to be brought into that process. But we do need to get rid of more FNOs. That's going to require ECHR changes. We recognise that. Yeah. I think things like maximising frontline officer time, drawing on technology. Live facial recognition pilots have seen amazing results in the pilots where you've been able to pull people in off the streets, dangerous people, to be able to bring them to justice. So you've escaped that previously. But also making sure that where rehabilitation is the focus, and there it's right that there is a place for that, of course there is, the answers need to be durable. Often that falls down, particularly around housing. People do all the right things inside, preparing for a life beyond the prison estate, and then it falls down because things like housing just aren't there for them, or they're not released back into their immediate community. We need better solutions, a more holistic joined-up approach.
Thank you to Tom and to my panel. I'm joined now by former Metropolitan Police Officer Chris Hobbs. Chris, let's just speak honestly with one another here. The Labour government's completely adrift from the British people, right?
I think you could say the last government went completely adrift from the British people as well in terms of policing. At the moment, you've got, and I don't think it's fully realised, you've got a police service throughout the country, and especially in the Met, where police officers are leaving in droves.
Right.
In the Met at the moment, they're hemorrhaging out of the force. If things get worse, as they seem to be about to do, and you have to think, can they really get any worse? Then that hemorrhaging is going to continue. We've already got one of the lowest police population ratios in Europe. Now you've got a police service that's on the verge of collapse. Part of the reason for that, let me also hasten to add, is the constant, and we've just heard some of it from your good self, the constant denigration of officers. Officers...
Chris, I don't think I was denigrating any officers. What I was saying is that the current status quo is not working for the British people. I don't think I said anything negative about officers themselves.
You might not have done, but plenty of people in your field do, and you see it every day in the newspapers, and yet acts of bravery, self-sacrifice, compassion by police officers are rarely reported on. So you've got this problem of morale in the police. When I was a young police officer years ago, I policed Southall in the borough of Ealing. Between us and Ealing Division, across the borough, we would put out every shift 21 police vehicles. At the end of each shift, we would hand over maybe to the next shift, maybe 4 or 5 outstanding calls. These days, we had to call police to my local pub a few weeks ago. They turned up reasonably quickly. They explained that they were in real trouble because they had 4 vehicles covering the London Borough of Ealing. And often, at the start of every shift, those vehicles are swallowed up. Scene guards,
Sure,
for example,
Chris, if
guards.
I can. So just to be absolutely crystal clear, personally, I'm team police, okay? I'm on the side of officers. I want officers to be paid properly. I want police authorities to be fully funded. I want the criminals to be at the absolute centre of our focus. But we are looking at stats here, the highest ever level of shoplifting that's ever been recorded since records began in 2003. Violent crime, again, basically up being mainstream. Knife crime, 54,000 offences last year. 70,000 phones stolen from people in London last year. There is this sense, and I'm not pointing fingers at the police, but I'm saying, petty crime is being mainstreamed, basically.
No, I think you're right, and I think the police are every bit as disillusioned with what's happening out on the streets as you are, and as the public are. And one statistic that you didn't mention there, and is often overlooked, is that assaults on police officers are running at record levels as well. So that's another reason for morale to actually be going through the floor. So yes, we have got a crisis in policing, and I would say, without any exaggeration at all, policing is on the verge of collapse.